Jarod, I'm going to put you on the spot, but you left us with so many cliffhangers. Like, who's in the body bag? Who is it? Is it Anthony? Is it Chris? Is it Doris? I don't know. Who is in the body bag? What happens to Doris? There's 100 questions. Is there anything that you can tell us? I'm Billy Hollowell, and welcome to our Vindication after show. This is the second after show that we have done, and I'm very excited because we've got some great guests today. We've got Jarod O'Flaherty, who is the writer and director of the show. We've got Todd Terry, who plays Sergeant Gary Travis. We've got T.C Stallings, who plays Detective Trey Millwood. And we've got Peggy Schott, who plays Becky Travis. Thank you all for joining us today. Now, Jarod, I'm going to start with you because this show, and now all 10 episodes are up on Pure Flix. This show is your baby, right? You've written this, you've directed it, and you're getting a chance to watch all of the excitement that people have over this show. What has that been like to observe and sort of watch throughout season 2?
Well, at first you're a little nervous. How are people going to receive it? How's it going to go? But as the season rolled out, it was just great to hear from people who said, I heard about this Vindication. I wanted to check it out, a couple of episodes, and ended up staying up till 3 a.m. And I went and grabbed my husband, and he came and watched. And he doesn't watch TV, but he's watching with me now. So it was just great to see and hear stories like that of people that really just got invested in the show and the characters and had to keep watching. Because that's obviously creating this type of entertainment, what you want to hear. And so it's been really just a great response that we've received.
Now, Jarod, you very clearly chose to bring this issue of forgiveness into the fold. A lot of the characters throughout, Vindication, as you're watching season 2, this issue keeps coming up, right? How intentional was that? Why did you sort of choose that as one of the central themes that people were going to experience in season 2?
For the topic matters that we dig into with law enforcement and obviously people making mistakes, I thought that forgiveness, which is one of the central core aspects of Christianity and the Bible and what Jesus taught, of forgiving others the same way you want to be forgiven. It was just something that I felt could be a strong foundation to build our stories on and to have that element just come up time and time again with different characters and different situations and really teach it. Because, I think in our culture, it's something that maybe we've gotten away from. With cancel culture, you make a mistake, you're done, you're erased, you have to go away. And that's just really contrary to what Jesus taught, So it was something that, again, could be a core foundation of our stories. And I think it really connects well with audiences and keeps their attention.
Well, you have cancel culture and you have gospel culture, and they're very different things. And you see in this the struggles that people go through, right? But you see that sort of gospel culture, which Todd, that kind of brings me to you because I think about Sergeant Travis, and I think about your character, and we talked about this on the last after show a little bit, but season 1, that Travis is very different from the season 2 Travis. What did you enjoy most about sort of playing Travis as more and more of a changed man?
I think it's his heart change. In season 1, he was all about his own subjective right and wrong. And then he becomes a believer in season 2. So he starts doing some things that are right, but his heart in some ways is still not in the right place. We see with his pursuit of a better precinct and, his challenges with Tomlinson wanting to be, in a bigger position. I'm trying not to give things away for people that haven't seen it and speaking kind of, mercurialness, whatever. But, and at the end of the day, it comes down to a forgiveness issue with Travis's character that I think, has caused him to make some bad choices and pursue things that he thinks will make him happy. So that's what I really loved. Any actor loves the chance to have some arc with a character, but that's what I've loved about him.
Well, and there's that struggle with Doris, and I don't want to give too much about Doris away, but I really enjoyed that character, and I was pleasantly surprised at moments, and at other moments I was challenged. And if you listen to our podcast on this, our after show podcast, we talked a lot about different theories that we had throughout, and I don't want to give too much away for those who haven't watched yet either, but as you sort of navigate that as a character and you see Travis going through that relationship with Doris, that's really intriguing too, and it shows that we're all human beings. We all go through these ebbs and flows, and even as Christians, we're all on a journey, and I thought your character really showed that. Now, Peggy, I have to ask you, because Becky is such an interesting character as well. And there's a lot of things. You see Becky as this devout Christian wife and mother. You also see Becky struggling with some things, with holding information at moments, from her husband, trying to do the right thing in that process. But there's so many great qualities of that character. What most resonated with you personally, when you look at Becky and you look at yourself?
What I love about Becky, she's a complicated character just simply because she's human. And even being Christians, we know that we are human. We will make mistakes. It's going to happen, but we're always, loved by God. And I think that's something important to show everyone, that just because you're Christian does not mean you're perfect. And Becky definitely isn't. And something that I really enjoy about the character also is the fact that she understands Gary. And you can see in season 1, she's not going to be pushing her faith on him. She knows that she has to handle him gently and just give little nudges and trying to lead him to faith, but also being patient and waiting for God's time for God to affect him and bring him to that. And I think that comes in through season 2, and she is withholding things from him. I don't know if she's withholding, but she's waiting for the right timing. And she'll say little
That's
things.
A better way of wording it.
Yeah, she'll say little things to feel him out, to see what kind of reaction she's going to get from him. And of course, he just shuts her down every time until she finally just, blurts it out because she can't wait anymore. So, but it's that waiting for God's timing and trying to be patient.
Well, and what I love about the two characters, right, the husband and wife there, is that, you've got Travis, Sergeant Travis, you've got Becky, and every time you guys are having a conversation, it's at bedtime, like right when you're the most exhausted. But I think that happens to all of us. Like, you have those tough conversations before you go to bed, right? And the Doris conversation was a really interesting one because it finally, Becky blurts it out, and so it's this big thing, and you see Travis like, "Are you kidding me? Like, what?" But it's a really great conversation and how it's approached. So it's actually a good model, I think, for how we should probably approach these tough things in our marriages when they emerge. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Peggy.
Just, the communication is so important, but timing is important too.
Yeah, I'll throw in there, if you notice in that scene, the way she spits it out, it's very rehearsed. It's like she told herself, when he comes and lays down, I'm telling him. I'm not delaying. I'm not waiting any longer. And just the way she delivers it, it's like, okay, she had made up in her mind, all right, now's the time. And it came across in the performance and how that little monologue of hers was delivered.
All right, so TC, now you were the newcomer in season 2 here of this show and of Vindication. And what was it like coming in as a newcomer, and what did you enjoy most about playing Millwood?
Well, coming in as a newcomer, I was excited because, like I said, I had binge watched season 1, and to see everybody after watching all of the episodes, I mean, that's always exciting. I remember going through the same thing when I first started acting, and I had saw Fireproof, and I wanted to work with the Kendrick brothers. And I show up on set, and I meet Ken Bevel, and I meet Alex and everybody. I'm just like, man, that was an answered prayer. So I was praying about Vindication and just whether the Lord wanted me to do it, because I have a lot of desires. But I just be like, all right, Lord, you got to sift out what you don't want me to do, and only let me do what you do. And so when it all worked out, and then I showed up, and and then I met everybody, and I'm just like, this is cool. And the way they received me, really, really cool. Because, like I said, not only just a newcomer to the script. And it could have been where I was like, who's this guy? And but he wrote it in such a way, which I don't like to influence writing. So I was glad he wrote it in such a way where everybody welcomed me. And I wasn't a part of any early drama because I didn't want fans to not like me. So I wasn't a part of any drama or anything like that. And so I like the way he was written in. But it was really cool. They, as real people, like, you know, not Travis, but, you know, actually Todd and you know, and Peggy and Chris and, you know, Venus and everybody, Janet, everybody welcomed me in a very, very cool way. So it was just cool to enjoy it, not only from a script standpoint, but as an actual cast, to where it's like, you know, we're family and it's fun and you can't wait for more to come and stuff like that. So it was really good.
Well, not only was your character likable, but also kind of like the voice of reason at some interesting moments that were just very natural. I don't know. I really liked that about the character. Like when Travis needed to hear the truth, that you were kind of delivering that as Millwood. Was that a trait that you enjoyed of that character?
I did because this is the parts about Trey that I enjoy, because it's kind of like my real life stuff. Like, I love being an accountability for other people and then having that accountability brother for myself or sister, like whoever it is, just accountability, male or female, in your life, that when you need it, they're there for you and you can depend on them. And then they get it from the source of scripture. You know, that's because that's just how I live. And I want that to be my tight inner circle. So the way that Jarod wrote it, to where I didn't just come in and work with Travis, we kind of went through some things to the point to where he saw me as someone that could have his back. That I really, really like, because we've established that I look out for him, somebody that he can depend on, which was something that he didn't really have. Last time he had that was Chris. And that was the most dependable person. And it was interesting because in the beginning, he didn't think she was going to be as dependable as she turned out to be. So she leaves. And then to have me come in and fill that hole for the precinct and for him, I just love that dynamic, you know, and we can have these conversations. And me being a black man, him being a white man, and for us to be able to just talk about everything and do it in a cool way, I think that shows people how to have a conversation too. So I enjoy all of that.
Well, and that brings me to you, Jarod, because I have to tell you, you know, Chris and her brother, you really challenged me on, as I'm watching it, I had a lot of things, and you heard me, I talked about these in the podcast, you know, sort of judgments on Chris until you hit a certain point in the story and you realize, oh, maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe there's more going on here. And it really sort of rolled itself out in a way that kept you engaged. I wanted to know more about that relationship with her brother. Why was it that way? Why was he the way he was? And so all of that to say, everything TC just said and what I just said, what goes into crafting these characters? Because these are very developed relationships and characters. What's that process? You know, for Millwood, for instance, what sort of process do you go through to come up with the idea and then really carry that through?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the season, when we look ahead, there are kind of some tentpole moments, so to speak, or some fence post moments that we know we want to get to and we want to hit. You know, we need this to happen. We need these characters to have their moment together, whatever that may be. Obviously, with Chris's brother, for those who have watched, we know what was going to happen with him. And then once you have that moment, you kind of step back and say, now, how do we build to that moment so that it's meaningful, not that it just comes out of left field, you know? So it's not some character that you saw twice and they're supposed to have this big emotional moment and well, who's this again, you know? So we kind of start with that moment and then just build back from it. And I think that's what you were describing of how these characters are deep and developed. You know, as we're talking about Chris's brother, you see him in episode 1. And we very well could have told the story of episode 1 without him being a part of it, but we knew we have some bigger things ahead coming with her and with that relationship. So let's establish him now. And you see different characters pop in and out throughout just because we knew what we were headed towards. So it wasn't so much you know, to use an analogy of a road trip of let's just hit the road and see what happens. Instead, it was we know we're going to hit these checkpoints, so let's start going towards those and see what happens on the way.
Yeah, and I mean, I was looking at Chris as sort of, I was calling her an enabler in the beginning, and at the end, I wasn't really saying that as much anymore. And people may have different views on that, but because of that trajectory of how you developed it, it did change how I responded to her as a character and to her brother as a character as well. All right, so now, Todd, there were a lot of different tests of faith and lessons. You had issues of ego. There was the discussion about race. You had family members not having faith. There was lack of forgiveness, addiction, all these other things. Did any of those tests of faith, you know, ring true to you personally? Were there any that sort of, you know, resonated most with you?
So we're having a come to Jesus meeting now? I get to confess.
We'll go one by one. We'll start with you.
Yeah, okay. No, I would say probably, the self-righteousness aspect of Travis. And for me, self-righteousness isn't you think you're better than someone else. It's just you think your way is right. And a lot of that comes from, I think mistrust in the heart, wounds. And for Travis, it was all about, it's Travis and Doris. It's about those wounds that he got as a kid that, he's always trying to find another way to get happiness or to feel successful. And so I would say, I imagine a lot of people may, understand that, but it's just trying to think, hey, that thing, I want it, and I'm going to do whatever I can to get it. And that doesn't really bring you happiness, and that's the way it was with Chief. He had that realization that that's not going to bring him happiness. It's not that it was a bad thing, but it just, it wasn't going to give him that fulfillment. So, yeah, that's probably how I relate more.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. One of the things as a viewer, and we talked about this in the last after show. I want to talk about it again. Jarod, and then Peggy, I have a question for you about this, but the prison ministry aspect of this, if you want to just speak to that again, of why you chose to include it and what you're hoping people take away from that, because it became actually a substantial part of the season.
Yeah, well, that idea did come from Peggy. It was when we were filming the final episode of season 1, and we were just hypothetically talking, hey, if somehow we get to do another season of this, you have any ideas? What is Becky Travis, what's she up to? And she shared with me that she would love to see Becky doing something on the ministry side, particularly prison ministry, because it fit well with the work that her husband does. And then for where her heart is at as a character, she thought she would be there. So, okay, thank you. And the seed got planted. So when the process came to start writing the scripts, that naturally came about. Now, I actually... a while back, was in my younger years, was a part or participated in a prison ministry. And what stood out for me the most of going into these prisons, I mean, you're thinking these are all the bad dudes, right? They're tattoos and mean and evil and that. And at least the area I got into, it felt more like a church service than a prison, I mean, there were some men in there who were really, really walking with the Lord. And it was almost humbling to me. Like, I feel like he needs to be the one talking to me, not me talking to him. And that was my experience. The particular ministry I was a part of, it was called Bill Glass Prison Ministries. It's here in Texas, based in Texas. I believe it's now called Behind the Walls is the name of that one in particular. I know there are many, many others, probably one in every state, and definitely some national ones as well. But yeah, so from that experience, and I thought about, these people that Peggy may interact with. Obviously, there are some that are still maybe clinging to their old ways, but then there's others that are really seeking the Lord, and that kind of crafted some of those storylines that you saw.
So Peggy, for you, I'd love to hear more about why, from your perspective, why you brought that up, why that was something that was of interest to you. But how did those scenes impact you when you look back on having filmed them?
It was shortly before we were filming that episode, and I was speaking with a very dear friend of mine, Linda Carey, and she was telling me about a prison ministry that she is part of here in Texas. It's called Women's Storybook Project. And there are so many women who are incarcerated who have young children at home. And with this ministry, they go in and they bring children's books to the incarcerated women, and they record them reading these books, and then they send the audio tape along with the book to their children at home. So the children at home can hear their mother reading them storybooks. And I just thought that was a wonderful thing. So, and it was something that was really on my mind and on my heart. And when Jarod asked me what I wanted Becky to be doing, well, I didn't want Becky to be doing a prison ministry. I wanted me to be part of this one. And then COVID hit, and I haven't been able to do it yet, but I definitely plan on it because I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. As far as filming the scenes, I had so much fun with the group ladies. The one where Becky is praying with the woman, and how that turned out. I don't think I want to ruin that for anybody, but that was fun. That was a lot of fun to shoot. Getting to film with Doris, who actually is a dear friend of mine, Laurie Coker. She and I have been in a couple of stage productions together in different films. So getting to do the scenes with her was nice. But I think the one that really impacted me the most was when Anthony came in, Dequan. When he came in and Becky's on the phone waiting to meet him for the first time, he doesn't make eye contact at all. And I'm just trying to get him to look at me through this glass, and we couldn't even hear each other, but trying to get him to look at me. And finally, when he looked up and made eye contact with me, I just melted. It was such a powerful moment, not just as an actor, but imagining in real life, talking to someone who is, behind bars, who is incarcerated, and wanting to do whatever you can do to help him, even though, Gary told Becky not to do anything, but you can't help but want to help.
Yeah, and it's so related. I mean, it's, again, that relationship is so relatable, right? Between Becky and Sergeant Travis. Now, I have to ask you, Todd, you have this scene where Tomlinson, and I don't want to spoil all the details of it, again, if those who haven't seen it, but Tomlinson is really going after you and your character and Travis's family, and it's a very emotional scene. Travis gets really angry, so kind of lashes out. How do you muster, because when you're doing an emotional scene like that, I'm not an actor, so I don't know, how do you muster that kind of emotion and make it feel so real?
Well, first of all, Steve Mokate, the actor, makes me so mad all the time, so it's easy. No, I love Steve. We give each other grief all the time. But honestly, I think it's like, as an actor, you just practice stuff over and over and over again, and some things become easier to do. But a lot of it is just taking a risk. Sometimes you fail, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get bad fruit, sometimes you get good fruit. So, hopefully it lands. But yeah, I don't know, that moment with him saying all those things, I'm not a method actor by any means, but it just, it makes you kind of boil up when people start talking about your family and that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's an easy trigger for people. And then a lot of what you do as an actor is you're imagining what it would be like to be obviously in that circumstance, and you're trying to bring that to life. And you all did that so well. That particular scene, again, being so emotional, that was a great performance there. Now, TC.
Hey, I want to throw in one thing. I'm sorry, Billy. I'll throw in one thing there. I don't know if Todd knows this, but it's about that scene, and we're not giving it all away, but there's a physical confrontation there, and his buddy Steve that he was just ragging on pulls me aside one time as we're filming. He says, "Hey, on one of these, can the cops not stop Todd? Like, I want to see him come at me and see how he responds if they don't stop him." And we actually get together. And unfortunately, for safety precautions of what could happen if they don't stop him, but also for time and stuff, I had to shut that idea down. But yeah, he was petitioning to let that scene roll out and see what happens impromptu there.
It wouldn't have been good.
Would have been, that would have been, wow.
Yeah, there you go, Tom.
I love these behind the scenes details that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise. That's great. So, all right. So let me ask you, Jarod, now that I have you here talking about this, when it comes to second chances, we talk about forgiveness. A big part of forgiveness, not always, but many times, is a second chance in a relationship. What are you hoping audiences take away when it comes to that particular topic?
Wow. We mentioned previously about Chris and her brother and, that relationship there, about having a family member that probably to her was a bit of an embarrassment, that she almost tried to keep him sheltered. You talked about an enabler, that it was just something that I think a lot of people can relate to. We probably all have a family member that's maybe estranged. Maybe they're making choices that we don't particularly agree with. And how many second chances do you give that individual? What goes on? And forgiveness, of course, plays into that. I had a recent situation in my family where there was a family member who maybe wasn't getting invited to all of the family events for certain reason, conflicts and things of that nature. And one of my daughters, was actually her birthday party, came and said, "Hey, I want that person invited to my birthday party because I don't think it's fair that they're getting left out." And it was kind of convicting of, wow, okay, you know what? Yeah, then we're going to do that. So I think as far as it being a part of Vindication, I think it's something that's relatable, that we can all probably think of someone that needs to be invited to the birthday party, so to speak, given that second chance. There are situations where sometimes you have to cut ties. I understand that as well. But at least to get people thinking about it and relating it to their own lives, and maybe that person in their own life that needs that second chance or that opportunity to redeem themselves.
Yeah, that's a powerful reminder, and clearly you're raising, a very good kid there for that to be the response. That's a proud parenting moment, for sure. It really is. All right, TC, you have done so many projects. I'm actually interested to know this as an actor. When you go from you're preparing for a film and you do a movie. And it's a little more, I would imagine, open and closed in terms of how it's done. Whereas a TV series, and you're appearing in multiple episodes, there are multiple storylines. How do you, and maybe there is no difference, but how do you prepare for a TV show, a TV series versus a movie?
Well, the cool thing for me was Vindication. It'll hold a special place in my heart because it was my first TV series, and then it led to really two more now. That one has been announced and one is in the works. I'll be on 3 TV series, and what I'm noticing is it's the episode to episode that literally what you did in episode 1, it could be episode 45. You have to remember that you did that. It's significant because everything just kind of just builds on itself, and if you're not careful and you forget that if you establish something in episode 1 that I don't know, maybe it's a word you always say or something you're known for or a place you always go or you greet a certain person a certain way all the time and people latch on to that and it's one of their favorite things or whatever. It's easy to tell that you've forgotten that and you didn't carry that along. So with a film, it's you remember that for the moment and then it's like you said, it's pretty much over. But you always have to remember kind of what you did last week or last month or 3 years ago in that context. The context never stops. Just put it that way. So whoever, when they introduce me as Trey Millwood, that's the guy. That's who people know. That's who they like. Stay him, remember him. We could be 40 episodes in. You may have to go back to 1 to see how he came in and what he said he was all about and keep that continuity going. So that's the challenge of it.
I mean, I can't remember what I did this morning. So I don't know how actors do that. I don't know what I did this morning. So I would probably have a hard time with that. But no, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So, all right, on a lighter note, and I'm going to put you all on the spot. I'm going to start with you, TC. Were there any blooper moments or memorable moments? I'll give you an out because we can't always remember a blooper moment on set. Right. Memorable, funny blooper moments that you would want to share.
I was thinking about that. I'm like, I can't necessarily think of something specifically, except for like me and Todd cut up every time we break. We talk about all kinds of stuff, you know what I mean? And then it cuts on, and then we gotta like straighten back up real quick, whatever. That's always funny. But can you guys think of anything that just happened randomly that stuck out that everybody's crying? Because I have a bunch of little things with everybody, but I can't think of something specific that has.
Oh, I can think of one.
To see what y'all were gonna say.
I can think of one. What? And that last episode when you thought that you were done, TC, and you went and changed clothes, and they said, "No, okay. You're not done." Oh yeah. Wait, so change back into his wardrobe.
That's right. Okay, that's a good one. It was one of those things where whenever you rap on anything, that's it, and it's just like it's all exciting, and everybody claps, and it was my first TV show, and it's I'm in there in my tights. I'm out of my clothes, everything. Jared's like, sorry, buddy, we need you in the last scene. I trying to put everything back on. It was cool.
You were done. You were that feeling when the work day's over, you're so excited and everyone's like, oh, you're not done. You got to get back in, not only get back into character, you got to change back into character.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a t-shirt and jeans. It was a full suit and tie. It was the party scene, the retirement party scene.
Yeah, right.
And I had told him, hey, you're good, man. Yeah, well, I'm mentally checked. Okay, yeah, you're good. And so he's saying his goodbyes, giving hugs, and almost to the door. And I think of the next scene, and I'm like, you know what? Trey would still be here for what we're about to film, And it's oh no, who's going to go ask him or tell him? And
see, Peggy, thank you, Peggy, for remembering that. Look at that. That's a good one. Are there any others?
Oh,
y'all go ahead. I'm gonna still keep thinking if something come up.
You got one, Todd?
I mean, it's not Mine's not a blooper, but it was just like Peggy was talking about those jail scenes behind those thick glass. You couldn't hear the other person talking. And, to have a really emotional scene with someone and you're talking to each other, but you can't hear a thing. I remember that being such a challenge because I remember Lori came up afterwards and said, "It looked good, but I have no idea what you said." So.
Oh, wow. So you guys couldn't actually, wow.
We could not hear each other. Yeah. So that was a challenge, but when you lock eyes with someone, it definitely helps. But I just thought that was kind of wow, interesting.
That is wild. Wow.
I know of a quick one between Todd and I, but the whole crew was witness to this. It was the scene when he wakes up outside the prison where he had slept in his vehicle all night. He's going to visit Doris there in episode 10. And as we're filming this, he was in a car. I was probably 50 to 70 yards away at our video village. And I told him, hey, I want you to wake up like you're an old man here, just kind of wake up like an old man. You've got all the creaks and all this kind of stuff.
No acting required.
So, we roll the first take and he does it, but let's just say, it was slow and there were a million aches and all this kind of stuff. And so we call cut and all the crew turns to me and I just yell out, I'm like, hey, Todd, we need like 65, not 105, meaning his age, right? And all the crew is like, what are you talking about? And Todd's like, I know exactly what he's saying. So, but yeah, I was saying that he looked like he was waking up at 105 years old instead of 65. So
that's what I was talking about when I said you try and you fail. That's a good example.
I did have one more. I don't know if it's giving too much away. But speaking of old men who are interested in old women, and I stop you from saying that. And when we're in the kitchen getting close, husband and wife getting close to each other, and we're counting on Anthony to step in just at the right moment.
Oh, yeah.
And there was one time, and and Todd and I are like, okay, Anthony. I'm sorry.
Where are you?
This is a Christian show.
Any moment now.
I love it.
My kids who have been around Todd and Peggy and even my wife, when they watch that scene, the squills and cringing in the room of are they about to kiss was like, no, because they know them and their spouses. And
my
all
husband
that.
cracks up.
Fun.
He's watched that scene several times, and he cracks up every time.
And now there's a great backstory to it. So that I love that. All right. Now we're coming towards the end here. I have a couple more questions for you guys. But Jarod, I'm going to put you on the spot because you left us, and you may end up giving away too much. Or I don't know. Feel free to give away whatever you want to. But you left us with so many cliffhangers. Like, who's in the body bag? Who is it? Is it Anthony? Is it Chris? Is it Doris? I don't know. Who is in the body bag? What happens to Doris? There's 100 questions. Is there anything that you can tell us at all? Is Chris a dirty cop now? Is there anything you can tell us?
Well, obviously, we would love to get to do a season 3, and that's why we left that open-ended, because we wanted the fan base, the Vindies, the Vindy Nation, for those people to chant alongside us that, hey, let's keep this going. So that's why we decided to leave some things open-ended. I do think there was some nice closure, however, with Doris and Sergeant Travis as well. But in leaving it open-ended, what can I give you? I would say this. With some of the ideas for a season 3, you're not going to get all the answers to that in the first episode or the first scenes. It would be something that is drawn out, and some of those questions would remain for multiple episodes. So if you'd be expecting, opening scene's going to tell me all of that, no, there's going to be a lot more to it and a lot more complex should we get the opportunity to keep going.
So let's say, and we know that this is the case because there's a lot of intrigue and a lot of fans for this show. What would your advice be for people who want to see a season 3? What can they do to try to make that happen?
It's very easy, and that's just tell people about it, share about it. One personal recommendation is worth hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in marketing. It's just the way it is. If you have a friend tell you, hey, you need to go check this out, that's a whole lot more than 20 commercials telling you need to go see this. So for people who enjoy it, talk about it, share about it, get some others to watch. And as we've seen, most people, when they watch a couple episodes, they get hooked, and then you don't have to pester them about it. So that's the best way to help us, because viewership, eyeballs, that's what drives more seasons.
All right, here's my final question, and it's for the actors. And by the way, I had lots of theories on all of this as the series was going. I have theories, as I mentioned, about who's in the body bag and all of that, and I won't bore you with them right now. But I'm curious for each actor. I'll start with you, TC. If there's a season 3, what would you love to see happen with your character? What would you love him to do or be or go, or I don't know?
Well, when we get a season 3, because the fans are going to lay this thing out, I think the coolest thing about my introduction, and I think in some cases, directors and writers can overplay this and worry about it too much. And I was happy to see that this is not something that Jarod was worried about. That no one really knows why I came, why I chose East Bank. Strategically, you see this a lot. No one knows who this is. No one knows his family. No one knows any of that. And it leaves so much to understand, like, why, they bring me in, I'm snatching guns from people. I'm not afraid. I'm like, dang, like how deep was this gang stuff he went through? Does he have a family? Like what is he thinking when he's out there? Am I engaged? Am I just dating? Like, we don't know any of that. We don't know what his motivations are, because it gives an opportunity to really run with that. Because if I really, am I taking care of my grandmother? Like, we don't know what I'm thinking when I'm out there. And when you start to dig and see what his motivations are, and there's so much that you can uncover, it's just a wide open thing. I could not even be married. I just been wearing this, praying that God would send me someone, and when I find someone, I'll take this off. It's so many things that can be done. So just to find out his motivations for coming, what his life is like, what is his home life now, what we've never seen, his home, where does he go at night when he leaves? Like, there's all that type of stuff. What is his goal? What his deeper relationship, with Travis and then Chris. I love that he, being that I kind of replaced her in that precinct, that he got a chance to actually work side by side with her. That was one of my, I really enjoyed that dynamic of working with Chris and us going on a couple stakeouts and things together. So that whole thing, it's just wide open, and they're writing so well that I don't really say much. I like to just see, like, what are you praying about? Where's the Lord taking you? And how is this guy going to be fleshed out? So there's so much to learn about him, which I'm glad he held back very nicely, but still didn't make it to where people couldn't invest in their emotions in me. Why do we care about Trey coming back? He did enough to where people will care about it, but now there's so much more left on the table. So that's exciting.
I like that. Yeah, you want to know the backstory, right? You want to know who this person was beforehand, and like you said, where they go after work. Who is he really outside of that role? I love that.
Yeah.
All right, Peggy, you are up.
I am up. Well, one thing I definitely would like to see, and Candace and I have talked about it, is we think that Becky and Janet need to get together, because they would have a lot of fun together, I think. I love the character Janet, and I love Candace. She's a wonderful lady. So I'd love to get to work with her. And then there's one other thing, and I don't know if I would say that it's something that I want, but something that I'm curious about. And it's the fact that many times we see Becky make decisions that make the audience go, oh, what is she doing? And things always seem to work out, except maybe that Bible study thing. But things always seem to work out. And I just wonder if one time Becky's going to make some decision and things are not going to go her way. And something, yeah.
That would be interesting to see how she would react to it. Yeah, absolutely. I like that. All right, Todd, last but not least.
Well, I want to see Travis not be the butt of every joke about exercising and, being out of shape. So I want Travis to come in muscle bound like TC, and they're like, what happened? No, I think the great thing about being a Christian in this show is that there's so many storylines you could take, because, just with sanctification, we believe lies and then we find the truth constantly in our lives, and new things are revealed. So there's just so many ways you can go. I don't have a specific to say other than I will be in better shape.
maybe the thing is, now me and him work out every morning or something
there
like that.
There you go.
Oh, I will say this too. Some folks,
Jarod, we're doing your job for you here. We're helping you. We're doing your job. I hope you're taking notes.
Some folks were saying to me that, the first season was, like I said, it was that, the who done it and boom, boom, boom. And then how Jarod, this particular season, did a good job of adding now some storylines that you can follow, which makes everybody invested. Excellent. And I knowing him, it's going to be a pretty good blend of both, because people really enjoy both sides of that. Some people literally love that repetitious, just keep feeding the same thing, and they get it. They know what's coming, but they don't know how you get there. Boom, there's a crime, and we figure it out. Other people love the story and getting to know the characters and all of that. Now you've got both of those people, and you cleverly keep writing to where both keep happening at the right balance. It's just, there's your season 3 right there. It's just like people like to follow that crime. Oh, how's it going to work out? But then, what's going on with Todd, or what's going on with, his wife and all those kinds of things. So that will be exciting to see how those two things, now that you got two types of preferences, are blended to where you got your crime and your whodunit, but you also got your storyline and your, following the characters' lives. And it's perfectly, as best as it can be pulled together.
Now, Jarod, I'm going to give you the last word on this because we just wrote part of season 3 for you, just so you know. I don't know if you want to react to that at all before we go.
I muted when they were saying that. That way I don't get any. No, I'm just kidding. That was great stuff. So, awesome. I don't think I could say anything on that. Oh, man, do I want to say anything? Goodness.
I'm trying to make you say something. That's what's happening here.
Yeah. There are some other characters, like TC mentioned, that we haven't delved a whole lot into their backstory that I think are fertile soil for some more storytelling. In particular, there was a scene where a disconnected family met up in a parking lot, and there was a lot of drama there. And I'd like to know more about that situation and what's going on there, especially as one of those characters grows in his faith. What does that relate to the other people that were in that parking lot? So that's something I would like to see.
Aha. All right. Well, very good. I want to thank you all for coming on the show today. And if you're watching this and you are a Vindication fan, which I know you are, go over to the Pure Flix Facebook page. Let Pure Flix know how much you want to see a season 3 of the show. And again, thank you guys for joining me. And head over also to Pure Flix to obviously watch season 2 of Vindication. We will see you again very soon.